Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of Unpopular Opinion with Schaafy and Pals. Today it's just Schaafy. As you can tell, we do not have a pal, and that's okay. We don't always have to have a pal. We got a lot of great things to talk about today. Today is going to push some buttons with some people. It's going to hopefully open up some eyes. I'm speaking to both sides of the political landscape today, and hopefully I can get some people to come together on some things and understanding. Hopefully I can bring some value and some education, and I really hope that it opens up a conversation and helps some people in this world understand that what's happening in this climate is crazy and we need some change. So, without further ado, let me hit that catchy little theme song. Welcome. Love it or dislike it, it's all just the same because unpopular opinion is there in the name. That's the coolest line I've ever written in my entire life, and I've written tons of poems, songs, etc. Welcome to Unpopular Opinion with Schaafy and Pals. It's just Schaafy today, Season 1, Episode 3, my lucky number 3. Got some great topics to discuss. Like I said in the introduction, I really hope that I'm able to open up some eyes here. I just really want to speak from the heart. That's what this entire podcast is all about. Getting into it, just starting it off, it's unpopular opinion. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about my military career and what the military career has led for me, what it got for me, what it did for me, what my service to this country did, and some of the good things, the bad things, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll just get right into it. In high school, shout out Mount Tahoma Thunderbirds, repping the school. Oh, by the way, we won again. Our Mount Tahoma High School football team won again last night. I think we're 3-0 on the season. Coach Terry's just been kicking butt. Gosh, we've had back-to-back seasons where we've made it to the state quarterfinals, I want to say. And that's just so cool. I'm just really excited. Hopefully I get an opportunity to come out to a game this season. I really want to. But in Mount Tahoma High School, part of the Mount Tahoma Thunderbird Battalion, I actually was a cadet in the Army Junior ROTC, right? So Reserve Officer Training Corps. And JROTC, Thunderbird Battalion. I started as just a cadet private, and this was actually in freshman year, and went on to senior year where I made it to the rank of cadet major, battalion executive officer. Our battalion commander, shout out Jason Novel. Jason, I think you're going to love this. You're going to love this episode, bro. Jason this is just random. This wasn't even in my writing, but Jason is a great friend of mine. He lives in a different state now, but we chit chat all the time. And I think that we've actually strengthened our friendship just by, we share a lot of the same opinions and views and morals, etc., which this entire podcast, this episode is about. So shout out to my boy, Jason. Love you, buddy. So yeah, it's so funny. My JROTC career started. I did not like JROTC. I don't know whether it was I just had an issue with authority or what it was. I didn't like it. I wasn't clicking with it until we went to spring camp and we went to Thunderbird Battalion spring encampment. So that's where during spring break, while everybody else is sleeping in and having a good time, The Mount Tahoma High School Thunderbird Battalion went to, at that point time, it was before it was JBLM. It wasn't a joint base yet. It was Fort Lewis. And we spent a week during spring break basically learning what it's like to be in the Army. And so we slept in the barracks. We'd wake up, we'd go to the chow hall, right? The dining facility. We'd do PT every morning. We'd go and learn something every single day. We'd go to a different thing and learn about what it's like for the military. And that's where I fell in love with the military because we were actually doing it. I ended up getting a medal from the sergeant major that had oversaw the entire encampment. They gave out some leadership medals. Each school was allowed to give like 4 or possibly 5. And our sergeant major, who was our Army instructor, and our major, who was a senior Army instructor, they were designated to give out these 4 or 5 medals for leadership during the encampment. And I earned one. And from there, I was hooked, and I got quickly promoted to sergeant. They gave me a squad. From there, I became, a squad leader. I got promoted to being an officer, et cetera, et cetera. I had climbed through the ranks, and by the time, senior year came around, I was one of the top people in JROTC. I had great friendships that I had, lifelong friendships. I bring up Jason, and gosh, like him and I, look at this. This is, almost 30 years later from the day I met him, and him and I are really close, good friends. Justin Jansky, rest in peace. Man, I had this crazy thought. I was watching these new episodes of Beavis and Butthead. Yeah. Hey. Justin and I would act like Beavis and Butthead since we were like in 8th grade. And that was our show. And it broke my heart the other day that we're in a world right now where there's new episodes of Beavis and Butthead, and they're like old. They're like our age. They're like middle-aged dudes. And they do flashbacks from when they're kids, but and Justin's not in this world to share it with me. And it made me feel really sad because I was like, man, I got to live in this world and not be able to share these episodes with Justin. But that was just a side note. Don't worry, my therapist and I will be working through that next week. So back to my military career. Justin wanted to be like a Marine. That was like his thing. He wanted to, and he just couldn't make it. And not because he, didn't apply himself or whatnot. There was other things involved, but I'm not knocking him. It's just, he wasn't able to go in. Gotta have a sip of that white monster. So good. So my military career, we went to spring camp every single year. We had just a good time. I was Raider Team Commander, Honor Guard Commander. I was I was lead guard in the first place color guard that Jason was the commander of. In our senior year, we won a bunch of competitions. We had an honor unit with distinction. When it was all said and done, I had tons of medals, tons of ribbons, etc. I was just in love with it. I was like gung ho, and I was like, man, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be a soldier. And so I enlisted in 1997. This was like junior year, and I enlisted in the U.S. Army. And I enlisted to become 11 Bravo. I wanted to be Airborne Ranger, and I wanted to be super gung-ho. Some of you might remember there was a giant check from the U.S. Army that had my name on it, and it said $50,000 for college. My college was paid for. Everything was great. I went down to MEPS. I enlisted. I swore my oath. And all I had to do was graduate high school, and then I was going to get shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I was going to go through airborne school, and that was that. That was going to be my life. And then I was going to go to college for free, all of this stuff. Well, I didn't graduate high school on time, and it all stems from me making really poor decisions my sophomore year of high school, where I actually stopped going. I had transferred from Mount Tahoma, and I had moved out to Parkland with my biological mother, and I started going to the school, Washington High School, the Washington Patriots. And I just, man, I missed Mount Tahoma so much. I was just really a fish out of water over there. I didn't really relate with a lot of people. I tried to get in with one of like the skater crowds, and it was just really tough, as opposed to Mount Tahoma, where I was like, where I've been dubbed, Chris Bolai called me Mr. Universal. I was just friends with everybody, every social group, etc. Whether it was the cool kids, the skater kids, the jocks, the band geeks, JROTC, everybody, student council. Like I was just involved with everybody. It was really tough. So I actually ended up stopped going. I dropped out of high school my sophomore year. Some of you may or may not know that. And I ended up going back to Mount Tahoma. Well, one of the things that I didn't know, and this was my first senior year, is that none of the credits or anything that I did at Washington transferred over. I got 0 credit for all of that, rightfully so, because I stopped going, and it put me behind. And so I wasn't able to graduate class of 99 with all of my friends. I was crushed. I've never said this out loud. I've never told anybody exactly how it made me feel. I was like, okay, I'll just come back and etc. This devastated me. It made me feel like a loser. It made me feel just so sad, like I was stupid. It made me I was really, really sad. And I found at an early age that, smoking weed and drinking was a great way of coping with that. So some of my previous episodes where I talk about alcoholism and things of that nature, a lot of this stems from this time. This was like a first huge traumatic setback that my life had had. Well, the other piece about it is that if you don't graduate high school on time, guess what? You don't get to go into the military. Okay, so that option was shot. I got a letter that said, under provisions of AR 45 dash blah, 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 or whatever, Uncle Sam doesn't own your ass anymore. They had to rip up the $50,000 check. Everything that I was boisterous about, that I was like, I'm going to be an airborne ranger and I'm gung ho and all of this, completely washed down the drain. And then I was like a free agent on the market. I'm still this high-ranking cadet for the Thunderbird Battalion for JROTC, but I don't have a destination. Recruiters were showing up at my house. They were calling the house phone. Our answering machine was filled with everybody. I had everybody's cards from the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Coast Guard, everybody. The Marine Corps recruiter was showing up at my house in the morning trying to give me a ride to school. Like I'd walk out, walking to school, and he was there. Creepy. Like it was scary. I was like, dude, why are you here? Hey, Schaaf, just trying to give you a ride to school. What's going on? It was scary. I didn't like it. So I sat down with Major Palmer from JROTC. He was our senior Army instructor. And I was explaining to him that, hey, like, I get it. I got to come back and graduate next year. I'm not in the Army anymore. So that means I can't go to basic training right now. And I don't really know what I want to do. And he said, well, first off, I want them to stop showing up at your house. He called the Marine Corps recruiter on the phone, on speaker right there. And I swear he made that guy stand at attention over the phone. And he said, lay off. Cadet Schaaf doesn't know what he's doing yet. Stop showing up at his house. And it all stopped. He called every recruiter and said, stop bugging me. And he asked me, hey, I didn't see Sergeant Gates on this list. She was our National Guard recruiter. And I go, yeah, she hasn't called me nothing. He goes, well, what do you think about the National Guard? And I was like, I don't really know a whole lot about it. He goes, it might be a good option for you. So I said, okay, well, let's give her a call. So we called her and he said, hey, Sergeant Gates, is Major Palmer over here at Thunderbird Battalion. And she goes, yeah. And he goes, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about Cadet Schaaf. And she's like, oh, Schaaf's so high speed. He's going to be an airborne ranger and all of that. And he goes, well, I don't know if you've heard, Michael's actually been released from that program. He's not going to be graduating high school on time. And she goes, oh gosh, well, do you think he'd be open to talking to me? And I goes, hey, Sergeant Gates, I'm right here. Yeah, let's talk. And she drove to the school. She was there in like 15 minutes. And we put together a game plan. And I really like the fact that, the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, okay, that's fine. You have an option to go full-time guard, which I wanted to look at. But staying at home was like a really cool idea to me as well. At this point, I was like, okay, well, let's give that a shot. So I actually re-enlisted in the Washington Army National Guard. And I actually did that with one of my girlfriends at the time, who right now, she's still in, I believe. She's like a first sergeant, which is just incredible. Because I was like the super gung-ho one, and she was like, well, I'm going to do it for college money, and, et cetera. And now she's like it's funny how the world works. So I ended up going to basic training. I still went to basic training that summer, and then I came back the next year and I finished up high school. I graduated with the class of 2000, and there's a plane going ahead. There we go. We're right in the flight path of JBLM. So sometimes you're going to hear planes going overhead. And my life began. So one of the first things I wanted to do, which was party. That's all I wanted to do when I graduated high school, and then when I came back from AIT in Virginia. And part of me, the part that was super gung ho, it had escaped me for a while, and I didn't have the right frame of mind. I was, started drinking a lot. I was smoking a ton of weed, which is just so bad. And I didn't have the priorities right. I on the external, I thought that I was like this army guy that was this badass Republican. And I remember I had like the American flag in my bedroom, and like I had pictures of our president, George W. Bush, and then he's our commander in chief. And then I had like a Donald Rumsfeld, who was the Secretary of Defense at the time. Like his pictures, I had our entire chain of command up there, and I thought I was like this cool, strong, tough Republican Army dude, right? And I went to college, and I graduated and earned at this accredited school. It's not around anymore. This is a funny story. And that's a different story for a different day. But I went to a computer technical school and got basically their first term certificate of completion. I graduated in 2002. And basically had their form of a degree in integrated computer applications, and thought, okay, that's what I want to do, something IT related, something technology, etc. After I graduated school, I actually ended up working at this advertising company. I just posted pictures recently on my Facebook about the time there, and for about 2 years after graduating college, I was traveling all over the place, and I had transferred into what's called IRR with the National Guard. The National Guard had become kind of just off to the side. Now, here's the thing. I want to dispel a rumor that went around at this time. People were reaching out to me and saying, I heard you're AWOL. I was not AWOL from the Guard at all. You can transfer into this, it's called Independent Ready Reserve, and you become a support detachment, essentially. And so I had filed all of the paperwork while I was in college to transition into IRR, and that's where I was. And so people at my unit stopped seeing me going for the weekends at the unit, and it's because I had transitioned into IRR, and it took a while for that paperwork to show up, et cetera, et cetera. But regardless of the fact, I was IRR, Independent Ready Reserve. So I was working for the advertising company. I was traveling all over the place. I was partying all over the place, and I just wasn't really a focused person. I didn't really have goals. I was very poor. I didn't have a car, didn't even have a license, and I didn't really have my wits about me. And I left that, and I shout out to Kyle. Kyle's in every story of my life. I'll tell you, he's been a constant mainstay. Great person, great friend. He got me hired on at Best Buy, store 830. Shout out to the Best Buy crew. And okay, cool. Now I'm actually doing something in electronics. That's what I wanted to do with my, my college education that I had, et cetera, et cetera. And in 2005, I was working at Best Buy, and that's when I got my honorable discharge from the National Guard. Holy shit. It had been 6 years, the majority of which I was IRR. And I got my honorable discharge, my DD 214. And for the next 2 years, I worked at Best Buy. Everything was going pretty well, but I had this feeling in my soul that I had done something incredibly wrong with my military career. It wasn't the path that I wanted to take with my military career. And I felt horrible about it. And I started waking up that I'm not doing things right. My life is not in order. And so I went to the United States Army Recruitment Center, and they had a civilian recruiter named Vince, and he was prior service. I had no clue they had civilian recruiters. This was 2007. And I re-enlisted. in the United States Army full time and switched my MOS from Automated Logistical Supply Specialist, 92 Alpha, into Air Traffic Controller. I had orders that were going to ship me off to Fort Rucker, Alabama. I was going to do AIT, and then I was going to join a unit overseas. That was my first request. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it right. I left Best Buy. I quit in a horrible fashion, in which, I kind of did that self-destructively to try to almost burn the bridge so that I couldn't look back and second guess it. And I was going to ship out for Fort Rucker, Alabama. And then on July 1st, and my order said, I believe it was like July 7th, 2007, was to ship out for Fort Rucker. And on July 1st, 2007, at approximately between 1 and 3 a.m., I was a victim of a crime, and I was stabbed 4 times. Once in my face, once in my chest that punctured my left lung and collapsed the lung, once on my shoulder, and once on my hip. Regardless of everything, leading up to that, it was an extremely traumatic event. I almost died. I was in surgery for about 5.5 hours at, thank God for the trauma team at St. Joseph Medical Center. And the very first thing I said when I woke up was to my dad when they pulled the breathing tube out of me. And I said, you need to call my recruiter. You need to call Vincent. I'm supposed to ship out in a week. And my dad was like, don't worry about any of that right now. And I was like, you don't understand. I'm property of the U.S. Army. Like, I'm supposed to be shipping out. So the recruiter came, and Vincent just stared at me up and down. And in this, as I'm laying in this hospital bed, my chest had been completely sawed open. There's 19 surgical steel sutures holding it together. I'm all infused now like Wolverine. And he said, Michael, there is not a waiver in the world that I can even think of to get you to be able to stay in the U.S. Army. That crushed me. I had lost the opportunity on my own behavior and decision making when I was in high school. I was given a second chance, and I didn't do it as well as I should have. And then when I made the decision to do it right and make up for it, it was taken away because of a medical. I was stabbed. I had lost part of my lung. My chest had been sawed open to save my life. And that was the end of my military career. I have been working on a lot with therapy about that, all 3 of those different traumas and how they've affected me. And one thing was constant, and how I dealt with it was alcohol. And we know it. And boy, in 2007, did I ever jump right back into it. Now, I tell you this story for a reason. It's really the direction of what this episode is all about. In my military career, 3 different times I have gone to MEPS, which is Military Entrance Processing Station. It's where you go and you sign up. The very first time I did it was in 1998, and it was on April 2nd. Now, here's a funny story. In the 90s, I guess they had an issue with people signing up on April Fool's Day and getting all the way to MEPS and getting to where you say your oath and then saying April Fools and just leaving, which is crazy to me because it takes months to get to that. Like, you have to take a 3-hour ASVAB test to get there. Like, what? You got to walk like a duck in your underwear with a room full of people at MEPS. Like, somebody's got to look at your butthole, man. Like, there are so many things that you have to go through for that joke. It's crazy. So they told us we couldn't sign up on April 1st. We had to enlist on April 2nd. Anyways, besides that, there is an oath that you take. And now here's the thing. I actually have it over here in the corner. So this is, I got this the 3rd time that I had gone to MEPS and whatnot. And the oath is an oath that you take for your service. And I'm going to read it to you. Some of you, I hope this doesn't, give you flashbacks, but this is what you say. You raise your right hand and you say, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. So, let's talk about that, because this crazy world that we're in right now, we are seeing some things that in my opinion, and I believe it's actually a popular opinion, go against what that says. The relationship between a U.S. president's orders and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it's called UCMJ, that's a cornerstone of the American legal and military system. The president, the commander-in-chief, holds broad authority to direct the armed forces. But this authority is not absolute. The UCMJ, particularly Articles 90 and 92, criminalizes the failure to obey a lawful order. This distinction here is critical. Service members have a legal and moral duty. Moral. We're going to talk about that a lot. Legal and moral duty to disobey orders that are unlawful. An order is considered unlawful if it violates the Constitution, which I have here in my hand, U.S. laws, or the UCMJ itself. Here are some examples. So let's say that there's an order to commit a war crime, such as torturing prisoners or targeting civilians, or an order to use the military to subvert the constitutional process. I get it. The determination of whether an order is lawful can be complex. However, the principle remains. The president's authority as commander-in-chief does not extend to ordering the military to commit illegal acts. The military justice system provides a framework for holding service members accountable for following lawful orders while also protecting them from prosecution for refusing to carry out an unlawful one. Is any of this kind of sounding familiar of the things that are happening in this world right now? If you're getting an order to go against something that's in the constitutional process, you're protected as a soldier. You don't have to follow that order. There's 2 amendments in our Constitution right now, and I'm not going to read word for word. I'm going to summarize for it, okay? That I feel are being broken. It's the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. The 5th Amendment protects you from being forced to testify against yourself and also guarantees you fair legal procedures. The 14th Amendment ensures that states cannot take away from your basic rights and must treat all people equally under the law. In case you're confused, okay, in case you're confused here, the due process, and equal protection clauses of both the 5th and 14th Amendments apply to all persons within the United States. All persons, which includes both citizens and non-citizen, regardless of their legal status. The Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the term persons in these amendments is not limited to citizens. This means that undocumented immigrants are entitled to certain fundamental protections, like the right to fair legal procedures and equal treatment under the law. Now, keep in mind the extent of these rights can be different in civil proceedings, such as immigration cases compared to criminal cases. Criminals are guaranteed the right to an attorney, even if they only face 1 day of jail time. And they will be provided that attorney if they cannot afford one. While immigration proceedings, you have the right to an attorney, but the government isn't required to provide you one. So I have one rule. Schaafy's rule number 1. It's very simple. If you're someone who thinks it's okay to wrangle up a bunch of black and brown people and throw them in places like Alligator Alcatraz without due process, fuck you. You're not just unconstitutional, you are anti-constitutional, and I do not want to be your friend. Also, if you support someone in our government that believes this is okay, refer to Schaafy's rule number 1 on that one. Fuck you. You're not just unconstitutional, you're anti-constitutional, and I do not want to be your friend. It's been really simple for me to go through my Facebook and my Instagram and purge it based upon people that I think are pieces of shit. And you'll hear them shout from the mountains, "Oh, you don't like my opinion, so you're going to try to unfriend me because of my opinion." It's not because of your opinion. It's opinion versus morality. An opinion is a subjective viewpoint. It's a statement about what somebody believes or feels. It's generally open to being proven or disproven in a factual sense. Think of it like this. I believe that creamy peanut butter is better than chunky peanut butter. That's a matter of personal taste. While you can argue about it, there's no universal truth or moral principle that makes it inherently right or wrong. Opinions are often influenced by individual experience, emotion, and personal preference. And so a lot of you form opinions that are just your own experience, your emotion, and your personal preference. Morality, in contrast, relates to a code of conduct. It's about how a person or society should behave. And it's often linked to concepts of harm, justice, and well-being. A moral statement like stealing is wrong. It's not just a personal preference. It's a judgment about an action that is generally considered to violate a principle of fairness or harm. We live in a political climate where if you are weak, sick, unhoused, a minority, a veteran, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, especially if you're trans, you are in trouble. I will say that again. We live in a political climate where if you are weak, sick, unhoused, a minority, a veteran, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, and especially if you are trans, you are in trouble. And unfortunately, the ones that are leading this defiance of social morality are in this all lives matter crowd. By the way, you can't say all lives matter and then vote against healthcare, social programs, marriage equality, due process, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're choosing just the wrong moral ground. You're choosing party over country. You're in a fucking cult. And it is my very popular opinion that you need to wake up and do better. Wake up. You think calling me woke is derogatory towards me? Hell yeah, I'm a woke motherfucker. And I am awake. Because you know what the opposite is? Asleep. You need to wake up and do better. So you think that people on the left who are left leaning or even moderate don't like you because you have a difference in opinion? You are wrong. It's because we have a difference in morality and you are a piece of shit. So let's move forward because I believe we can change. And a lot of you are deep down good-hearted people who are just misinformed and uneducated. And I always look at it like if you're doing something out of malice or incompetence. If you're malicious, fuck you, you're done. There's no helping you. You're too far gone. Now, if you're just misinformed, you can get informed and become a better person. Trust me. I thought I was a Republican until around 2007. And remember, I thought I was a Republican the entire time I was in college. So somebody says college is for the woke left, blah, blah, whatever. I had a picture of George W. Bush on my wall all throughout college. I thought I was a Republican until around 2007. And then I was a victim of a crime and I needed some social programs that I was voting against all of those years. This makes me really upset with myself. I had to do a lot of soul searching to discover that my actions hurt people. And I hate that it took until it affected me directly. And unfortunately, we see that a lot. But I completely changed. I woke up from the sleep I was in, and I decided to look into things more, understand things better, and see how we can help people. Not just in my city, not just in my state, but the world. Because that's what it's all about. And when I see people say all lives matter, and what they really mean is only the cis white people that want to go against anybody who's weaker than them, sicker than them, the homeless, any minority, veterans, the attack on veterans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, especially trans. You're wrong. Stop the madness. Wake up. We need to work with each other. We need to be better. If I can change, you can change. And then everybody can change. And yeah, I totally just quoted the Rocky movie in the end. But I mean, the reality is that there's a lot of truth in that. And it's very cliche. I love cliche because it's the tried and tested law. And we can all get along. There's a category of people here that it blows my mind how they say that they need to be Christ-like, and it's these far right Christian nationalists that they have all of these and they just go against everything that I've just talked about. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. People often ask me about what I believe in. And I stopped trying to figure it out because I found that I was wasting a lot of time since I don't have that innate faith, that innate, I believe in Jesus Christ, right? And let's look at the world. The world, and from all of my research and whatnot, and the research that has been brought forward by the Pew Authority, they have determined that about 28.8% of the world believes in Christ, that Christ is God. Within that 28.8%, it is the largest religion. So within that 28.8%, there's about 45,000 different denominations of it. And I know we're not supposed to say there's 45,000 different denominations of Christianity. But the reality is that there are that many denominations. everybody believes in something different. They argue over what it is. Oh, the Bible says that you shouldn't do this. No, it actually says this. So I took that and said, I can't dedicate any more time to it because life is so short. I'm going to live the best life I can, and I'm going to follow the rules that we should be treating everybody how we'd want to be treated, regardless of what they look like, sound like, how they choose to love, any of it. Be nice to everybody. Everybody love everybody. There's people in this world that don't think that way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you believe in Christ that you're a bad person, because no, one of my best friends in the world, and I'm not going to say his name, but he's a farmer, and when I see his relationship with God, I get jealous because I'm like, man, I wish that I had that innate faith. I just don't. So I choose not to surround myself with it. But when I see the good in the world, his kind heart, oh my gosh, it's incredible. I want to emulate that behavior. Now, let me ask you a question. If I emulate that behavior and do everything minus saying I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, does that make me a bad person? Okay, well, there's some Christians in the world that would say I'm still going to hell for it. So things like that made me not want to participate in any of it. But when I see my buddy, who, in my opinion, is what Christianity should be, and when he makes mistakes, he admits his mistakes, and when he treats people, and he would give you the shirt off his back if he could, whoa, that's cool. Is that because he has Christian morals, or he's just a good moral human being? It could be both, right? So this isn't an attack on anybody that believes in Christ as their God or God in general. I mean, the reality is that if I were upset with you for being that, then I'm a hypocrite. The hypocrisy would be crazy, because that's a minority. You only make up 28.8% of the world, meaning there's over 70% of the people in the world that believe something different or nothing at all. That puts you into a minority group. And I don't think that you should be, persecuted, or you definitely shouldn't be segregated for it. People shouldn't treat you bad. Okay. However, if you have a poor moral compass and you're doing those things that I see, which is discriminating against weak, sick, unhoused minorities, veterans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, especially trans, then you're a piece of shit, and you're not doing what your religious beliefs should be leading you to, in my opinion. So I hope that I'm able to bring some sort of an awareness to the world, to the folks that listen to this. Kyle, Kenny, hope I still got you. And I love everybody, and thank you so much for listening to this. If you want to discuss these one-on-one, because you say, hey, Michael, that opinion that you gave, right, and your morals, I don't agree with your morals, then okay, let's talk about it. If you think that you're going to come at me in a negative light, and you're going to come with an aggressive demeanor, bring it on down to Omeleteville, bro. I'm not backing down. I think that we should treat each other fair and equal. And again, if you think that we should not be treating everybody fair and equal, I think you're a piece of shit. So if you want to come at me and say, well, whatever you want to say, all right, come at me. It is what it is. So that's all I got for you. That's the unpopular opinion and the heart-to-heart segment of this show. I appreciate everyone's patience. I write these episodes. I don't put all the, directed by written by, filmed by, etc. But I write these, and it has taken me a while to research and formulate in words how I feel and write it down so I can eloquently say it for you. And I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the feedback. Feel free to text me. Hey, if you go on to Facebook or Instagram and you notice that I'm not friends with you anymore, there's an eye-opening piece there that there's probably something in this, what I just said, in my opinions and my morality, that I think that you don't believe. And I just won't, well, I won't surround myself with you, and I don't want you in my life. And I don't care if you say, we've been friends since we were in middle school. So what? People change, things change. You believe this, and your morality, your moral compass is heading that way, and my moral compass is heading this way. To love, support, and defend everybody in this world, not just picking and choosing who you think is right. So keep that in mind. I'm opening to talk, change my mind, right? That's the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to tell you, if you don't believe in helping everybody, you're not going to change my mind. So we typically segue into a product of the week. I wanted to lighten the mood a little bit. So those of you who are still here, I did pick up this really funny thing. It's the new product of the week that I actually got off of TikTok Shop. And have you ever been stuck in traffic? Lighten the mood a little bit, right? I get stuck in traffic all the time. I drive a lot for my job. And oftentimes I have been really, really close to peeing my pants. And like when I get home and I run inside the house and I have to pee. So I was like, what if there was some sort of urine bag that you can purchase online in an emergency and use? And guess what? Holy crap, there is. And I'm telling you, I haven't used them yet, but I'm just going to tell you, I just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit. I picked up, I got like 8 of them for like $10. And they're an emergency urine bag. You can use it. Anybody in the world can use one. And it has a wide opening, and it is sealable. And it can hold up to, the number was crazy. It was like 64 ounces or something like that. So you can fit a super big gulp in there. All you have to literally search on TikTok Shop or Amazon is urine bag free shipping. Just urine bag. That just popped to me. It's another thing that I can say to people when I leave a room. See you guys later, urine bags. Oh man, that's the product of the week. And we'll do a little recap. And the recap basically goes, if you feel that it's okay to follow orders that go against our Constitution, that go against U.S. law, that go against the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that you feel it's okay to follow someone that commits crimes almost every single day, do not surround yourself with me or my social circles. I feel that you're anti-constitutional, and I don't want to be anywhere around you. I feel that everybody can order their Constitution and Declaration of Independence from, you can get it on Amazon and actually read it. Read what it says. You'll actually be very, very surprised, probably just by reading what the Second Amendment says. And because it doesn't just, that's a totally different conversation for a different day. Here's something I actually do agree with the Second Amendment, but I agree for what it actually does say. And I'm going to quote one of my favorite comedians, Steve Hofstetter, and I'm going to paraphrase because it's not going to be an exact quote. But if you think by building your militia and having a bunch of guns is going to protect you from a tyrannical government, then you don't know how tanks work. Because what it says in the Constitution is that we're allowed to formulate a well-regulated militia to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, and therefore bear arms for that militia. Unfortunately, that was written a long time ago before tanks and drones and missiles and all of that type of stuff that our government has. There's no way there's a militia in the world that's going to be able to rise up against the U.S. government. So shit needs to be rewritten. And unfortunately, we are in a world where we do have the right to bear arms. I do support that right to bear arms, but I also want to point out that that entire amendment. A lot of people are misreading it. They don't really know exactly what it means and what it says, et cetera, et cetera. So get yourself a constitution and actually read it, understand it, and if you have any questions, ask, Google it. Shit, you got a supercomputer in your pocket. Use it to actually look into things. And then once you actually find some info on it, ask somebody else. Peer review what you're researching and see what other people think about it. And that's literally how I wrote this entire episode. Was looking at laws and what they say, and then discussing it with some people that from both sides. What do they know about this, and how do they feel about that? So we got a lot of work to do. I feel that a lot of you who are out there who are in the misinformed and uneducated, we can help you change. You're not doing things out of malice. You're doing things because for whatever reason. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have made it this far. I hope that I've been able to help. And if there's anything I can do to make this world a better place, I really want to do it, because we are unfortunately in a really, really bad place right now. And so let's try to make it better. Okay, that's all I got. Final thought and final side note: the opinions and beliefs that I have shared, both of opinion and moral function, are those of myself and do not reflect the opinions of any company I work for or client I work with, and should be taken as such. They are opinions. Thank you.